Well, good evening from the cottage farmstead. I'm Rebecca. So husband Nathan in the background there with our beautiful blue outhouse that we have here. It is where we have a lot of stuff and junk stored for our house build. We got a good deal on gutters, and when we moved a lot of our stuff from our old garage, things like T-posts and random pots and other things that just kind of get stored around homesteads and farms. We grabbed as much as we could, throw them on a trailer, and we had help one day and we just kind of dumped everything over here. So that's just where our stuff is stored right now. But we are here at our farmhouse build site because we're going to get our garden in this evening, hopefully, or get as far as we can. We were grabbing all these T-posts because we have a lot of deer pressure here. So we're going to try and rig up some sort of fence. We have some, are those 8-footers?
Yep.
8-foot T-posts.
You can see the height here.
Yeah.
I'm not a short fella, so hopefully it'll be a decent barrier anyways.
So we have tall T-posts. We're gonna create a fence around it of sorts to try and keep the deer. We just saw some actually when we drove up out of our garden before we start planting. But one of the reasons why we're trying to get our garden in really quickly is it's beautiful weather right now. It's like in the 80s. And next week it's supposed to be already in the mid-90s every single day and not a lot of rain in the forecast. So we are hoping to get the plants and transplants that we have started this weekend so they have a little bit of time to get used to being out here before the weather gets really intensely hot.
So probably 3 on each side.
So our fence is not going to be like the prettiest, most beautiful fence you've ever seen. We were just rigging something up with what we already have on hand. So we know this picket fence is way too short to keep out deer. It's only about 2.5 feet tall. But it has kept out things like rabbits and such from our garden in the past. So we're going to do that around the perimeter. We're going to do T-posts around the garden. A lot of twine all the way up to like as tall as we can on the T-post, probably 6-7 feet, depending on how deep we drive the posts, to try and get a fence that's tall enough to keep the deer less inclined to jump inside. So one of the things that we're reusing from our old cottage garden are these metal gates. We're going to just use one. We pulled both of them out, but they're the same size. But we'll put one here so that we can get in and out easier, and we'll rig up something to have between those two T-posts so that we can have something that's a little bit taller so that the deer don't necessarily want to jump right away. So this fence is nothing fancy. We're just using some twine to put it together. It's actually how we held it together to the stakes at our old house. And so we're going to do the same thing here for the picket fence that's going around the base. So I know the microphone in this camera won't be able to pick it up, but we keep hearing the deer over in the woods right behind us here. We actually saw 2 of them when we first drove up, and we keep hearing them in the woods. So they're probably watching us, wondering what sort of salad bar we're going to plant for them.
This particular twine is very inexpensive. I think this was like $12 or $13 on Amazon. And what it is tomato twine. This is for doing your Florida basket weaving style of trellising outside in the field production. What's nice about it, the box itself has these 2 holes. Those holes are for your belt to go on it, so it attaches right to your hip. So as if you're trellising tomatoes, it comes out the bottom here. You could just be walking along. You put this into a PVC pipe and just weave it in between the tomato plants. But here, when we're trying to tie it around the post, it'll be just as effective because I'll be able to keep the tension with my body while this is tied to a post and just walk all the way around. So it should be nice and quick and easy, and we'll show you how it works.
So we're improvising our plans as we go here. We're like, ooh, we could do a zigzag now that we have the horizontal lines to see if we can get a little bit more protection before we start tying a whole bunch of essentially streamers. We got some surveying tape that we were going to tie in between to kind of make a little bit more of a webbing, but this will at least give us even more protection, hopefully. Well, as you can see, we've got quite a bit of twine all over the place, and we're getting the last few places tied on. It's not too shabby for Appalachian engineered looking fence. We got lots of crisscrosses here. Whatever we find in the surveyor's tape, we couldn't find it in our stash, and it's starting to get dark here. We're gonna hang kind of streamers everywhere. We have some pie pans to make some noise. We're trying to make it not very attractive.
We're hoping when the wind jostles the pan, just creates some background noise, and hopefully will deter the deer just by the erratic noise that it might bring. Just like that. So this here is just black poly pipe. Joel Salatin loves this stuff for running his irrigation lines, and we also like it because it lasts a long time. Both exposed to the sun, you can bury it, but for what we're doing here, it's all going to be temporary. We have a garden hose up along the wood line and have an adapter just to hook this up to it. And what I like about this is you can go over it with vehicles as long as there's a stone in the tire. It'll last for a long time just with that type of wear and tear. So we're looking forward to getting this installed and getting some water on the garden. That way we can get the soil hopefully to absorb some moisture in preparation for planting. So this is the adapter piece that goes from female hose pipe thread to male pipe thread. And then this goes from female pipe thread to a barb fitting for 3/4 inch pipe, which is the size of the pipe that we have here. I still need to get a hose clamp. Don't do as I do. I'm going to temporarily do a zip tie just to hold it, but I will get a hose clamp on this. Hose clamps don't cost much, and they have a tendency to hold a lot better than most other things. So after that, just tighten up all the fittings. And I think we should be good to go to zip tie the end of that. Eventually I will get a crimp and then poke a hole towards the end, have the riser for the sprinkler, and turn on some water.
While the camera's light sensor is deceiving, it's actually getting on the dark side here, and the sun is setting behind me over there, and the moon is out. So once we get some of the irrigation in, we're going to be wrapping up for the evening. And tomorrow we'll be trying to get some seed and some of our transplants in the ground. My dad wasn't kidding about the clay.
You got that right.
Hard panned almost.
I'll go ahead and put that hole towards the end just in case we had to move this pipe at all.
Uh-oh, I heard a break in the line. Well, good morning. It's the next day, and Nathan dropped 2 loads of mulch for me. You can see one of them right here, as in the wheelbarrow. And I'm going to be moving some mulch around, getting it prepped so that we can plant our tomatoes and tomatillos and maybe some green beans or something today in our garden. Nathan is on his way to Ace Hardware because we discovered that wire ties were not going to cut it for our irrigation system, even for a temporary fix. So he has to make a trip out to Ace to get some hose clamps to get the pressure just right so that the sprinkler will run. But hopefully we'll be able to get that going very quickly. As you can see, the fence behind me is not the most beautiful thing to look at, but we're hoping it'll be effective. All those orange streamers are the reflective surveying tape that will flap in the wind and reflect the lights. We're hoping it's just a little spooky for the local wildlife. As you can see behind me, I've spread a decent amount of mulch. I'm leaving a little path in the middle, which is where we're actually going to plant. Farmer Nathan went to go get some compost, and we're going to put a little bit of compost around each of the plants as we plant them, because we know this clay is not the best thing for them to grow in, so just to give them a fighting chance. The mulch is going to do two things for us. One, it's going to help retain the moisture. This is in full sunlight. Second thing is it's going to decompose and make this clay soil better over time. So we're very happy to have these free wood chips, and we'll be getting a couple more loads up here over the next probably a few days that we're here. We'll spend maybe an hour out here and then finish the rest of the time in the house so we can start getting a garden growing this summer. So in a little while my dad's going to be joining us, and we're actually going to be going back into the farmhouse and spending some time getting the final touches on the electrical done so that we can get our rough-in inspection hopefully in the next couple of weeks. We're still waiting on some of the chimney pipe parts to arrive. We had to order them from like 10 different sellers on Amazon to get all the pieces that we needed. So that's kind of the last thing that's holding us up on our rough-in inspection, but there's a couple of little things that we're going to take care of today while he's here, just to make sure we've hooked up everything correctly, get the final wire, the grounding rod in outside. So we're getting real close on the electrical. While I'm waiting on him, I'm trying to get as far as I can on the garden. We got the irrigation sort of set up last night, and we got the fence up here, and you can see this fence is not going to win any sort of beauty contest, but it'll be functional, we hope, for keeping the deer out. It's between 6 and 7 feet high, depending on which side you're on, because we're on a little bit of a slope here. So we're hoping it's a deterrent to keep them from nibbling in our garden. So Farmer Nathan is back with some beautiful compost that we'll be using in our garden. My dad, oh, he's just pulling in right now. I was about to say, like, we have a little bit more time before he shows up, and we'll keep on putting mulch, but he just pulled in the driveway. So we're going to switch gears and work on the house for a little while, and we'll have to come back to our garden project probably another day. Daisy! My little girlie! Oh my goodness! Yeah! Oh, good to see you too. Well, I hope you enjoyed joining us this weekend as we rigged up a deer fence and started getting our garden in order so that we could plant some of our seedlings so we can have a little bit of a garden this summer on our new farmland. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll have more content on finishing this garden, getting things planted, and finishing up the house coming. So we'll catch you next time.